and welcome to Skills to Pay the Bills and today's segment of Build Your Difference. My name is Pierre Walters. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Brand Desk, where we work directly with visionaries to help build successful businesses and memorable brands. But you know, part of building a successful business is learning how to negotiate a fair price for your service. And it can be easy to get out there with a website and announce your service to the world, but the challenge comes when we negotiate a fair price that keeps our customers excited and us excited about serving them. You know, I think there's a lot of ways that we can approach this phase of any deal. But on this episode of Build Your Difference, we're going to discuss my favorite way to handle pricing when negotiating services with a new or established customer. So let's get started. The first thing that I always suggest is that we consider the value. What is the value that we provide? How much would you pay for someone else to do the service that you're about to provide? Think about it this way, all right? You are a web developer, all right? So you understand how to make a website, you understand the nuts and bolts, you understand perfectly what goes in, the amount of work that goes into building a website. But what happens if you don't? Imagine that you have none of that background. Imagine that you don't know the first thing about building a website, all right? And now you go to search for someone to help you build your website. What would be the amount that you would be willing to pay for someone else to build your website, knowing that you have no idea how to do it, all right? For me, that's where I'd like to start, all right? If I didn't know how to do what it is that I'm offering or my service, whatever that might be, how much would I feel comfortable paying to have that service performed? What's a number that keeps you excited about the customer without feeling like you're being taken advantage of? This is a very important question. This is something you really have to think about, all right? I want you to imagine, all right, that you have been in business doing whatever it is that you're doing for a really long time. And imagine the repetition. Imagine that you've been serving dozens, if not hundreds, if not probably even thousands of customers. And you're thinking to yourself, my goodness, whew, I don't feel like getting up this morning. I don't feel like clocking in. I don't feel like doing this again. All right. What that says to me is that there is an imbalance with what you feel that you're being compensated with in terms of the value of what you're doing and whatever that price actually is. Okay. So when you start to feel that way, I want you to think about it like that in terms of, hey, you know what? What is a number that actually gets me excited right now about this service for this customer, okay? So you got to think about that. Make sure you've kind of have that number in the back of your head, because that's your kind of litmus test to let you know whether or not this is something you even want to take on. And finally, discover what the market can bear by looking at what other people are charging for a similar service. So it's important to know what's going to get you motivated, all right? What your sort of litmus test is for a good price for your service. It's also important to know how much you would be willing to pay if you had no idea how to do the service that it is that you're providing, and you were forced, just like every other customer, to go out there and to buy it. How much would you be willing to pay? Now, the other thing that you need to know is what can the market bear? And the only way to understand that is to do some research, to get out there and to look at other websites, to look at other, in the context of a web developer, to look at other web developer websites to see what they charge. What is sort of the cost, for this type of service on the low end, and the cost for this type of service on the high end, all right? And then what's kind of the median of that? Understanding that sort of range of what the market can bear is really important, because it's going to help you to think and speak sort of realistically about what it is that your customer's probably going to be expecting from you in terms of your particular price. And I want to point out that, your price it's important, but it's not as important as making sure that you feel adequately compensated. I mean, really, the bottom line is this: if you're going to put in your best work, you gotta feel motivated to do that. You gotta feel like it's fair, like there's sort of a fair give and take, and And unfortunately, a lot of us forget that, and we say, well, you know what, I'm gonna I'm gonna just provide the service because the people are asking me to. I'm not even gonna really take a moment to think about what it is that I actually need in order to feel fairly compensated. And what happens? Well, unfortunately, a lot of us end up suffering from burnout because, well, we get burnt out. So what I want to suggest is this: understand what the market can bear. Understand what gets you motivated, okay? And understand also that if you had no idea how to do the service and you were just a regular customer, how much would you be willing to pay? Take that information and sort of put that in the back of your head and say, you know what? Okay, this is my sort of understanding of what it is that the market will bear and the framework that this customer is probably going to be approaching me with, okay? Now, I want to be prepared for this. So I have empathy for the customer. I understand where they probably are coming from. And now I want to be able to meet them where they are at a price point that is something that they'll consider equally as fair, something that they'll be happy with and something that I'll be happy with. Now, look, I didn't say this earlier, but I want to say it now, and that is the secret to negotiating is not to negotiate. And when we come back from the break, I'm going to explain more about what I mean by that. So we're going to take a quick break, but stay with us because we're going to learn more about how you can negotiate a fair price with any customer.
This is our friend and colleague, Donna. She has liver disease. She planned to present this message herself, but she can't because she's in the hospital. We can change this. We can help people like Donna remain active mothers, loving friends, and productive members of society. But we need to work together and contribute our part of the story to medical research.
It's ironic because that's what Donna planned to talk about. People like you know what it's like firsthand when a doctor gives you a scary diagnosis. When that happens, you want to know all of your options.
But the information online is overwhelming. That's why we've been working on a solution. Rather than struggling to find the researchers and support organizations focused on your condition, you make it possible for these professionals to find you instead. You simply answer a few questions about yourself and your health, and then you decide how much of that information you're willing to share, to whom, and for what purpose.
Please join us at Registries for All, regforall.org.
And welcome back to Build Your Difference. Today we're discussing how any business owner can negotiate a fair price with any customer. And the key word there was negotiate. And what I want to remind you is that the secret to negotiating is not to negotiate. Think about it this way. This is not a situation where you're looking to compromise. This is not a situation where you're looking to even split the difference. This is a situation where you want a fair value exchange. So let's start with my first question, which normally is, why has the customer even come to you in the first place? Try to understand, try to think about what's going on in this customer's life. Has this customer maybe shopped around for prices by other vendors? Have they reviewed your website already? Have they learned about you from maybe your marketing campaign or maybe did they see you on television or did they hear about you on a podcast or a radio show? Where is this customer coming from and what is their mindset when they said to themselves, you know what, I'm going to reach out to you to talk to you about this need that I have to see if you can help me at a price that I can afford. All right? So I want you to think about that. It's really important to understand why the customer chose you in the first place. Now, second is what sets you apart from your other providers, okay? Why has the customer decided that they want to come to you instead of going to any of the other people who are doing the same thing maybe that you might be doing? I mean, there are competitors. If you're offering a service like maybe web development, like I was saying earlier, if you're offering a service like maybe coaching or something to that effect, or editing or something like that. I mean, you're in a situation where you do have competitors. So why did the customer choose you? And I want you to think about that. Sometimes it boils down to a few set of intangibles, stuff that kind of sets you apart from your competition, from the customer's other options? First of all, maybe that customer has selected you because maybe they have prior experience with you. Maybe you've come through for them in other areas and they've decided that, you know what, there's trust here and I want to go where I feel I can trust the person, okay? I can trust the service provider. Or maybe the customer has experienced a situation with other vendors where they did pay for service that they were interested in, and unfortunately they didn't get what they were looking for, or they didn't get the results that they needed. Think about why that customer chose you. Think about what intangibles do you provide that really sets you apart, that makes the customer feel, you know what, there's something about this particular service provider that I really want to engage with. You know, I like to think about what it is that we do at Brand Desk. And I think that one of the things that kind of set us apart at Brand Desk is just this idea that we've got a very sort of integrated system. So customers that find us for one particular service, maybe they find us for maybe a website or something, and we come through for them on that, and then they discover, hey, we also happen to provide book publishing services or something like that, and they say, you know what, I'm kind of interested in maybe publishing a book, and they see that that's on offer. Well, now they have a previous experience with us. They have an experience that was positive. And so naturally the assumption is, well, if I had a positive experience in this area, then maybe I'm going to have a positive experience in this area. And considering that there's a lot of money on the table, I want to go where I feel safe. I want to go where I feel that I can trust the team involved. And I really just want to make sure that there are no surprises. Interestingly enough, something that I've learned over time is that people do not like surprises when it comes to making a purchasing decision. They really just want to know, like, look, I can count on what you're going to do. I can count on what you're going to say. I'm going to pay you and I'm going to expect this result, and there are going to be no surprises. That's really what they want. I mean, think about it this way. Have you ever gone to a restaurant and saw something on a menu that you felt you kind of had an appetite for, and the waiter comes and you say, hey, I'll take the lasagna or whatever it is, and the waiter says, okay, no problem, and you look at the price of that lasagna and you feel comfortable, you already know that you've got the appetite for it, and they come out and they bring meatloaf. Well, that doesn't really make sense, does it? Because you've sort of prepared for the lasagna, you know you want the lasagna, you're willing to pay the price for the lasagna, but they bring something that you completely didn't expect. Well, that doesn't really work, right? Because you're there for the lasagna, and that's really how customers feel. I mean, when they're making any kind of purchasing decision, they've got money that they're willing to spend. They want a result. They want a product that they can sort of rest assured is going to be consistent. It is what I ordered. There are no surprises. So when a customer is able to take a previous experience with you and sort of parlay that the feelings involved with that experience and put that into a totally new experience with you, that customer is saying, you know what, I trust you, I'm confident in you, and I am ready now to engage on this different service with you, so long as the price is right. So when you think about the intangibles that you provide, you really think about, how am I creating a meaningful experience that's different than what any other competitor could possibly provide for my customer. And lastly, I want you to think about what value are you willing to give away, and what value must be paid for. What do I mean when I say that? Well, when you're in a situation where when you're having a discussion with a customer about a service or about price, you have to understand, what is the value that I'm willing to give away, okay? You gotta kind of come in armed with that so that you know the difference between what you're willing to say, you know what, I'll give that away to you for free, versus, you know what, no, this is something that needs to be paid for. I like to think of it like this. When I'm looking at all of my different services or all of my different products on offer, I like to look at the books that I offer as value that I'm willing to give away. I mean, I put a lot of value into one book, and that book sells for just a few dollars, that's value that I am willing to essentially give away. On a podcast, for example, I might spend 30 minutes with a customer on a podcast doing an open session, giving a sort of a free consultation. That's 30 minutes that I'm willing to give away. But why is that? That's because the value of that experience, I believe, is basically exponential and actually probably priceless. I mean, how many people can listen to a podcast episode and receive value from just one conversation, right? Now, that's different than having a private one-on-one conversation, a private one-on-one consultation with a potential customer. In a situation like that, to me, that needs to be paid for, because no one else is going to experience value from this except that one customer. And because of that, this now sort of puts us in a situation where the value is really limited. It's not exponential, it's not limitless, it's not priceless. It does have a value, and it's really only affecting that one person, and so therefore, honestly, really they should pay. So understand the value that you're willing to give away versus the value that must be paid for. When you understand that and when you feel comfortable about that, then when you walk into a price discussion with a potential customer, you're not going to be in a situation where there's any kind of going back and forth. You understand the value that you're there to provide, and you also understand the price that they need to pay. So we're going to take a quick break, but stay with us because we're going to learn more about how you can negotiate a fair price with any customer. And welcome back to Build Your Difference. Today, we're discussing how any business owner can negotiate a fair price with any customer. Do you offer a custom price or a set price? This is what I want you to think about, okay? You're in a situation now where you're sitting down to meet with a customer. That customer has expressed that they are interested. You've done the research. You understand why that customer is coming to you. Maybe it's a customer that you've already served in the past, or maybe it's a new customer, and maybe that customer saw your advertising somewhere, or maybe they heard you speak somewhere and they decided to give you an opportunity to work together. And so you know that this customer is coming to you and they've got a problem and they believe that you have the solution. The question is, do you offer them a custom price or do you offer them a set price? Now, I always suggest offering a set price. Why is that? Because I firmly believe that the secret to negotiating is not to negotiate. Your prices are set and they cannot be adjusted. So there's no wiggle room there. There's just, hi, this is your problem. Okay, I have a solution and here is my price. Can you pay it? Do you want to pay it? Yes or no? If the answer is yes, then we have a deal. If the answer is no, you know what? I can point you in another direction where there might be other competitors or other associates of mine that might be able to help you at a price that fits what you're looking for, right? So no negotiating. But you know what? Something that I do think is important is always holding the power to offer discounts. Now, I know you're going to say, Pierre, wait a second. I thought you said the price is set, and so you're not changing the price. Well, you're not changing the price with a discount, but what you are doing is you're giving a little bit of buffer for some kind of value exchange. I believe that a discount is a powerful motivator. It's something that you can use to to clearly show that there is a value exchange happening here and something that we are both comfortable with. A discount, I believe, should be offered with a clear time frame or with a clear set of parameters. All right? I suggest that you always hold the power to offer a discount whenever you're walking into any situation where you feel that there's going to be a negotiation or a price discussion. Now, when you're looking at how to offer a discount, I always say, think about it this way. If you want that customer's business and you want their business within a certain time frame, maybe you want their business within the next 5 to 10 days or the next 24 to 48 hours. Okay, now you have a sort of case where there is a value exchange. What's the value exchange? The value exchange is, well, I'm going to move forward with the service that you're requesting at the price that we've agreed, but because you're moving forward now, because you're allowing us to begin on this right now, that to me is worth its weight in money. And I'm going to give that back to you in the form of a discount. You see, your price is how much it costs to ensure that you are comfortable providing a service. And a discount is a concession that you're willing to make in exchange for something that the customer is willing to give to you. Now, another example is, okay, we talked about time. Another example would be value exchange. What about a situation where a customer is in a unique position to be able to offer you some kind of intangible value that maybe you didn't think about, all right? What is the benefit of that value? What is the almost the purchase price of that value? And you can use that and factor that in to a discount. For example, let's say you're going to take on a customer, or you're thinking about taking on a customer, and that customer has used the age-old line, which is, I'll tell you what, if you do a good job for me, I'm going to tell all my friends about you, and it's going to be a great opportunity for exposure. Okay, in a situation like that, I don't think you should ever offer any kind of discount, because that's not a value proposition. Everybody can say that, and that's just sort of an inherent benefit to you just completing any project. Is, basically, if you complete a project for a customer and that customer is happy, they're going to tell their friends and family about you. They're going to tell their associates about you. That is not something that needs to be pre-negotiated. That's just going to happen naturally. But what if that customer can guarantee you something very specific? Let's say they have a magazine and they want to do a feature on your business. And they say, listen, if you give us a discount on this service, we're going to do an article about you in our magazine. Okay, now that is very specific, that is very tangible, and that is something that has a clear value exchange. This is something that I would suggest that you factor in and say, you know what is the value of this? I will factor that in to a discount. But even then, I always suggest that you always have a set discount. In other words, what is the amount that you are prepared to offer in the form of a discount? Whether it's 5%, whether it's 10%, you need to have that in your mind prior to the conversation, because you don't want to wiggle out of that, okay? Your discount is set. So in other words, your price is set, and the amount that you're prepared to offer in the form of a discount is also set, provided the customer can provide you some kind of value exchange that makes that discount worth it. Does that make sense? I think it does. And remember, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'll be happy to explain this to you in more detail. All right, listen, I want to thank you for watching Skills to Pay the Bills in today's segment of Build Your Difference. Building a business is challenging work, but it doesn't need to be difficult. If you're feeling frustrated by price negotiations, remember that the secret to any negotiation is not to negotiate. Compromise sounds nice, but it often leaves both parties with nearly half of what they really want. And instead, I suggest that you don't compromise. Think hard about the value that you're providing to your market, and only offer discounts when there is a service or time-oriented exchange on offer. A powerful lesson that took me some time to learn can be summed up in a quote by author Chris Voss, who says, Negotiation is not an act of battle. It's a process of discovery. The goal is to uncover as much information as possible. And as you build your difference in the marketplace, I want you to remember, treat every negotiation as a process of deep discovery.